Alright, picture this. The year's 2009. Now, as a young lad at the time, if you were anything like me besides playing the old 360 all day, things like Nerf guns, building forts, and zombies was where all the fun was at. So of course, a game like Call of Duty World at War with late night zombie sessions was always a jam. But after discovering the wonders of PC gaming, and after a few tippy taps on the keyboard of my mom's laptop, this led me down a rabbit hole of all new game discoveries. And then after a while, I would come across an obscure link. A link to a game that looked promising enough to fill the endless void of fort defense and blasting zombies. Fort Zombie. A game that had just released at the time, developed by Kerberos Productions, a Canada-based company formed in 2003, founded by former Rockstar Vancouver employees. At the time of release of Fort Zombie, they only had one other game under their belt, Sword of Stars, released in 2006, a space turn-based strategy game. As their second ever game made, this felt like a big change in genre. Fort Zombie was also published by Paradox Interactive, the same people responsible for games like City Skylines and Crusader Kings. Maybe it was a timing thing, but it surprises me, at least on release, the game did not get much traction. Alright, so we finally open the game up, and we get a simple menu, but in my opinion, I'm alright with that. I don't see any issue with something simple. And the main menu music, very loud by default, but it is a banger. I do recommend turning down the audio settings, but it's easy to do. It's just this game can get kind of loud sometimes. So, we hit new game, and we get a character creation screen. No intro cutscene or text dump. Honestly, he kind of looks like if Gordon Freeman from Half-Life joined a punk band, but that's just me. The character creator is simple and easy to navigate, but sadly you can't start from scratch. You have to choose from a set of roles like soldier or construction worker. But you can add skills, and take away points from existing ones. And after hitting next, here is where I made my first and probably biggest mistake. There is a skill called interaction. Even if you don't put a lot of points into this skill, take this skill. You will stand a little chance getting the best ending without it. Not saying it's not possible, but it will be a lot easier. Next, we choose our base, or as it's called, the fort. The difficulty settings are tied to the locations of choice. Police station being the easiest, providing buffs to you and fellow survivors, and the school being the hardest, giving a health buff to zombies. And of course, after it being years since I last played this game, I went with the police station. And so finally, we load into the game, and it crashes. A small rant here, but this video took me so long to make because of this one issue. At least for me, it was a 50-50 chance on when I load up the game if it would crash or not. I understand it's an older game that got ported over to Steam not too long ago, and old games and newer systems don't tend to tango well. But after trying to troubleshoot for hours with very few resources to try and fix it, the only two conclusions I could come up with were hertz in the display settings. Running it at 30 or under did help, as well as there seemed to be an issue with the physics engine of the game, and the fix was to downgrade it, but after trying that and it not working, I just kept trying to load the game and hope for the best. Okay, we finally load into the game, and the first thing we see is a window of text. This will be your tutorial. Not very intuitive, but I don't hate it. It's nice, it's simple, straight to the point. So the basics of the game map is this. It takes place in a fictional town of Piety, Indiana. You are placed somewhere within a rectangle with streets and buildings filling the area, and you have to make your way to your base, or in this case the police station. And from what I've experienced, every area or map is a rectangle with a waypoint on a compass you have to follow. The first game mechanic you experience is the searching function. Holding F creates a circle around you, meaning you're searching the surrounding objects for supplies. If something is found, you get a nice ding and an indicator over the item. Clicking on this brings up the inventory. A grid system easy to organize and manage, most times anyway. Well, luckily there is an auto-organize button that can save you from going insane, but sometimes it is better to manage it yourself. So we collect our food, our medication, along with our starter weapon, and we make our way to the fort. On our way, we can search through other buildings for more supplies. Most buildings can more or less be entered or interacted with, but there are only few worth actually taking time to search. Now, this game might not be very visually pleasing, but they added enough detail to know what kind of building you are entering and if they're in a different state, like destroyed or already looted. So, while taking the time to search buildings, this is where you'll probably experience combat for the first time. The combat system is very interesting to me, and I'm not entirely sure if I dislike it or not. Your camera is controlled by holding the right click down, and moving the mouse around similarly to games like Black Desert or many other MMOs. But your cursor is also the crosshair, and that can get a little confusing or frustrating at times. But one little feature I liked that they did add was the letter beside your crosshair does indicate if you're shooting long range or short range. What is more interesting to me though is after hitting a zombie, the damage is localized, but what also feels like random on what body part is being hit. Yeah, you can knock a few heads easily when you're aiming for it, but randomly it will show a miss, or the arms or chest will be hit. Or if you're aiming for the chest, you can knock a zombie's legs off. It almost feels like it's choosing RNG over where you're actually aiming. In all honesty though, it's not overly frustrating, as you can pretty well consistently hit the head. The camera movement, on the other hand, is more of an issue, as it has gotten me into some messy situations. Alright, we finally got to the police station. Now, with my limited memory of the game, I of course beelined it to the room where you can find a shotgun. Once we grab that and clear out the rest of the zombies, we can finish the run, and this will bring us to the fort management menu. We can manage our supplies and inventories, check stats, and assign jobs. Now, here's where I want to talk about a core piece of the game. If you look at the top left corner of the screen, we have a timer. We have 13 days to ready ourselves. Having a countdown of days is a nice change of pace in my opinion. I can't remember the last time I played a game where you only had so many days to achieve a goal. It adds a sense of pressure of what should be prioritized. And ending the day gives you a clipboard explaining the things done overnight, stats gained, and how much health you healed or whatnot. Speaking of health and taking damage, you may have taken some damage on your escapade to the police station. As long as you have medical supplies on you, you can heal yourself based on your medicine or first aid skills. Make sure you're well hidden though, as you're a sitting duck and can't interrupt the animation. Starting your first day at the base, you're presented with a map, and on the map you have multiple pins and locations in the surrounding area of where your base is located. The pinkish purple pin is for food or medical supplies, the green is weapons, and blue is survivors. When going to choose what run you want to do, it will display a travel time and a brief description. Now, the kind of description it has, I'm not actually sure if it makes any difference in how much there is to gain from it. I have done food runs, and it has said the location was already looted, but I would still find tons of food. Don't forget to keep travel times in mind too, as you only have so many hours in a day, and you need to pick and choose what is most important. So, let's start with a food run. We travel to the location and load into the same rectangle as before. Each map is randomly generated, making exploring more or less worthwhile, but you won't ever find anything great or of great abundance besides the main location you are there for. In saying that though, if you know what buildings to look for, it is a nice little bonus. So I just want to take a minute to stop and listen. When doing runs, it can be very ominous, only hearing the sounds of the undead. And realizing it now, this is going to sound very counterintuitive to what I said at the beginning of the video, but besides the main menu, it is a very quiet game. There are few noises you actually should pay attention to, but we will come back to that later. Alright, we've reached the location of the supplies. We'll clear out some Zeds and gather up the goods. Especially doing food runs first is a good way to learn to manage your inventory, as each mission you will be taking gear with you, like weapons and ammo. Some supplies runs can get overwhelming with the amount of stuff that's there to what you can carry. In saying that though, this was not a huge haul, but after hitting some locations on the way back to extract, not a bad start. I almost forgot to mention, to get back to base, you just go to the location where you started. We head back to base, unload our stuff, and end the day. Good news though, we have some weapons and survivor runs we can do. And being the reasonable human being I am, I of course went for the guns. And here's where I go on about the weapons of the game. You have two main types of weapons, ranged and melee. For ranged weapons, it falls into pistols, rifles, and assault weapons. Rifles being your semi-automatic or bolt-action rifles, and assault weapons being anything automatic. Shotguns, I believe, fall under the rifle tree as well. One thing to keep in mind that each weapon requires a specific ammo type too. I find this adds a nice touch to the weapon system and weapon management. It's not just ammo. It makes you have to manage what weapons you want to take and use. Melee weapons are much simpler. You have blunt or bladed. Now, melee weapons can be viable in this game, but that's with specific setup and skills, and if you want to go down that road, beeline it for the katana. It's probably the best melee weapon in the game and can almost stun lock zombies. We get to the area where the weapons are located, and it looks to be in those piles inside the maze. Now, most objective areas can be pretty interesting or weird, and it does add to the experience. 9 times out of 10 too, the objective area will have quite a few zombies in it, making gathering the loot more challenging, and it's usually the bane of my existence, military zombies. The way zombie works in this game is you have different types of zombies, and it's surprisingly diverse, detailed enough as well to know what kind of zombie it is without having to get too close. So besides the regular zombie, you have two kinds that can run, a regular runner and a football zombie. Now, what I find most interesting about the football zombie is he charges up a tackle that can knock you down along with other zombies. You can use that to your advantage, but if he's charging up off screen, you're not going to see it coming. You then have a nurse and doctor zombie. They're not overly threatening besides the fact that they can put zombies back together that you've already killed. And then the bane of my existence, police and military zombies. And these guys can and will shoot at you. When I said there were only a few sounds you needed to pay attention to, it's for these two. The police and military zombie do carry around guns, and they will shoot at just about any window or door. You will hear it, and you will be scared. The main thing that makes these zombies so deadly is the way your health works. Damage is not just localized on zombies. It's also the same case for yourself. You can damage limbs, such as your legs, making it so you can't run. But damage your arms, and your aim will be worse. And one unlucky hit to the head from a police or military zombie, and well, that's game over. So we've gathered a fair amount of ammo from this run, and we make our way back to base. Next up is picking up some survivors to join us. Now, here's where, for this playthrough at least, my frustration started. Though in saying that, it is my own fault for not putting any points into the interaction skill. After not getting absolutely destroyed by a group of zombies, we find a little kid. A kid just chilling in a shed. When we click on him, it brings up an ID card showing his skills. We try to get him to come with us and... wait, what the hell? So you're telling me this kid would rather fend for himself than come with me? Yeah, if you don't have any interaction skill, they just assume you get people killed. The cool thing about survivors is they're not completely random. What survivors spawn when you start the mission is, but it's pulled from a list of preset people. So when you go to pick up some new survivors and you already have a few, if they share the same last name, they will make comment on the fact that you found their wife or their brother. Then there are special survivors called keys. There are 21 keys, and they will all have higher base stats than other survivors, as well as having a unique look or outfit. Back to the mission at hand. Pretty well a bust. We make our way back to base, and the worst thing to happen has just happened. While traveling to or from the base, there's a chance you can encounter zombies. And this is one of the things they didn't make easy. Say you're traveling back with survivors or full gear and have this happen to you. Each road or straight stretch is usually littered with at least 5 zombies every couple meters or so. And by taking the back alleys to avoid the main roads is no use. Back alleys are usually littered with zombies, usually runners as well. And to add insult to injury, the extraction point is on the other side of the map. This is where I'd like to bring up the stamina system. Managing your stamina is very important. You drain stamina so fast in this game if you're running or jogging. The main issue with this too is you reach a point of exhaustion. Once you reach exhaustion, you'll be frozen in place till about a quarter of your stamina bar fills back up. And stamina is affected by what you're carrying, so you could carry a shotgun to slow you down, lowering the amount of stamina you drain. You can toggle a walking mode, and this is probably the best way to manage your stamina. At least this way, if you need to get away from zombies quickly, you will have some stamina to use. We get back to base and end the day. And lucky us, we have another survivor mission. And of course, I beeline it to that. Here we found a key survivor, the Beauty Queen. And of course, she won't go with us. How fortunate are we? I just ended that day as soon as we got back to base. I didn't see any point in gathering food when it was just me. So we hit up another weapons run. And at least we were lucky enough to get a good weapons location. This is what I mean by interesting locations. This weapon drop is in a car pileup, and the containers to search in this situation are usually really good with loot. But of course it's guarded by police zombies. We actually got some good loot from this, now only if there were people to share it with. Alrighty, let's give the survivor mission another try. It's a zombie apocalypse, not everyone can say no. Finally, at least Jethro here has some sense. Now that we have a survivor, let's talk about the survivor command system. It's a simple command system, and the AI is honestly not the worst, well, until they get stuck on a fence or a wall. You can set the range that they will target zombies, set them to defend a spot, follow you, hell, you can even make them search for loot. Or, probably the most used command, make them beeline it to the extraction point. You also have full control over their inventories. When giving them weapons, it seems they will equip the strongest weapon given to them from what I can tell. Can't really tell them what weapon to use. And hey, would you look at that? The Beauty Queen again. And she actually joins us. How sweet. I think we know who we're using when we need a distraction. Now that we actually have other people to add to the fort, this is as good a time as any to talk about the fort management system. While at base, you're provided with a job menu, listing your survivors, and you can assign them to different jobs, such as being a doctor or building barricades. The whole fort building process is simple as well. You can go into your fort and manually place barricades in a place of your choice. I believe you can also discover blueprints for traps, but I really never got that lucky. Once you finally decide where you want to put the barricades, you assign yourself and other people to building these. They can also be upgraded to take more damage as well, but takes longer to finish. There are items in the game such as nail guns and drills you can give survivors, and I believe it speeds up the process, but that requires power. The speed in which they're built is also based off the survivor's skills. Another thing you can do manually is choose where to place your survivors within the fort, which is handy, just don't run into them, they will freak out. Side note on the whole power thing, there is generators that can be used for lights and I believe speeding up the process of building barricades, but I hardly used it, and you won't run out of fuel by the time barricades are built. We have already gone over the chances of encountering zombies en route to a mission site, but there's also a chance when going to a mission that zombies can attack your base, so having your survivors ready and geared up is a must. I just got lucky in the sense that I only ever got route encounters, never got my base attacked. At some point my game glitched as well, and I would run at like double speed, so everything was way faster, and you would think that would make the playthrough a lot easier, but no, not when you have 6 zombies ready to jump you at insane speeds. After a few more weapon and supply runs, and a maddening time trying to gather any amount of survivors, towards the end I literally only had 5 people to help out around the base. This is why having points and interaction is so important. We finally get to the big day, the end of the countdown. We hit next day and load in. One final assault on the base. The final assault. Waves of every kind of zombie funnel through the front and back doors. I had people placed on the stairs and on the second floor. I figured having a vantage point would make things easier, but this is where I learned the gun system breaks. What tends to happen is, if you're not level with the zombies, you can still hit them, but it never goes higher than like 10 points of damage, and even then a majority of shots you just miss altogether. Luckily, this doesn't seem to affect the survivors. I do have to admit the assault on the base is kinda clunky. Zombies would gather into corners trying to get at people. Their pathing isn't great, and after the main wave, they would all gather in the corner of the map, meaning you have to go outside and get their attention. At least for the police station, you would just get them to come inside to the base and let your survivors help you out with them. After many zombies dealt with, and maybe one restart on the account of a lucky shot from a military zombie, and the death of 2 of our people, mostly my fault as well, I thought it'd be a good idea to have them follow me, but then they would just get stuck on zombies. And there it is. We finish. We defended the base. Costly victory. Then a fade to black.
Hey there. My name is Ben Riley. If you're listening to this message, welcome to Piety, Indiana. Population, you. The building you're standing in was once my fortress. The survivors in Piety used it to hole up for a few weeks against a dead wave that rolled out of Indianapolis. As you can see, the fort served its purpose. We made it through. I hope you enjoy those peach preserves. They're my favorite, but hey, I figured you might be hungry. Unfortunately, there aren't enough of us left here to hold out against the next wave. Death's army is still on the march. We're going to move on, try to find more survivors in the surrounding towns, and find another place to make a stand. Might do a few things differently next time. I don't know. But you shouldn't have any trouble following us if you made it this far. I'll be leaving my mark wherever we go. I'll set up relay stations for our shortwave radio. Whoever you are, stay safe. And may the Lord of Light be with you. I hope to see you at the next Fort Zombie.
This is the first time we hear Ben Riley's voice, or a voice in general. We lost so much in the attack, so we decided to move on, leaving a message for anyone who finds this place next. Not a bad ending, honestly. It's, like I said before, simple, straight to the point, but something isn't sitting right with me. Let's do this again, but let's do it right.
Hello, this is Ben Riley, Resistance Leader at Fort Piety, Indiana. We are broadcasting from the tower of the old WYRD radio station in the city center on all available frequencies. So, yeah, screw the SEC. This is a real emergency. Whoever you are, wherever you are, if you can hear my voice, do not despair. You are not alone. We have built a fortress and a safe house here in Piety. We've already held out against one of the big waves, and we are prepared for the next. We make regular sweeps through the area for supplies and survivors. If you can find your way to the town, we will find you and bring you in safe. I know it gets dark out there. I know you might be cold, hurt, hungry, or scared, but if you've made it this far, you're going to live, and we will see you soon. Until then, this is Station WYRD, and we are broadcasting live from Fort Piety, Indiana.
Ah, nothing like a victory. Feels good, man. Feels good. With no losses this time, we decided to stay and prepare for another wave to come, radioing out to any other people, letting them know that we will find them and protect them. A better ending. It feels right this time. I know I said it a lot this video, but Fort Zombie at its core is simple. Sure, not the best game at the time of release, but it's just fun. With the strategy element of management and the gathering of loot, it has more than enough to keep you entertained. With each run only being 14 days, it means for shortish playthroughs and many different combinations and options. So the replayability factor is definitely there. Actually, a fun little fact I learned while at the end of writing the script was Fort Zombie began as a test for technology to be used for an upcoming game, North Star. That game used a similar engine as Fort Zombie. I thought it was pretty cool that they put this game together for testing purposes. Now, can this game still hold up as of today's standards? Graphically, definitely not. But mechanically, I'd like to think so. Sure, at its core it's simple, but I think that's why it works for me. It's point A to point B, but it lets you choose what paths you want to use to get there. And I mean, for how much it is on Steam, $5, this game is definitely worth the pickup, or wait for a sale and get it cheaper. It's an opportunity for mindless fun and entertainment, and at the end of the day, we could all use a little mindless fun. And that's the end. If you made it this far, or even just skipped to the end, thank you for watching, or taking the time to check this video out, really. I always wanted to do a long form video like this, going over a game that's not that popular that I liked, or that brings me some good old nostalgia. And as soon as I seen this game on Steam, I seen an opportunity to play a game that I enjoyed when I was younger, and to give this kind of content a try. And after trying it, I realized I really enjoy making this kind of content, like story-based or almost documentary style, if that makes more sense. This did take me a long time to make. It was my first time writing a script like this as well, and I work a full-time job with rotating shifts, so it's hard for me to get time to really sit down and really focus on this. But even for as long as it took to make it, I really did enjoy doing it. So if you did enjoy it, if you wanted to leave a like, and if you're even feeling up to it, subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Oh, I also have started streaming. Right now it's only either on my days off, so I don't have a set schedule for it because it's kind of whack, and I'm only doing simple games until I figure out what I really want to do when it comes to streaming. I'm just doing like Magic the Gathering or Minecraft, but I'll put a Twitch link in the description below anyway. If I am online and you're just looking to have a chat with someone, come on out. Alrighty, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. Take care.